And we're recording.
We should observe the ancient ritual of traditional pre-fight donuts.
Yeah!
Fear does not exist in this dojo, does it?
Am I the baddest mofo no down around this time?
Shut up!
Break, not hit back.
Silly Caucasian girl likes to play with samurai swords.
You will all refer to me by the name Betty.
I know Kung Fu.
Thank you, Chuck Norris.
I said I don't want trouble.
Only a ninja can destroy a ninja.
Defeat does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, Sensei!
Now, who wants to go home? And who wants to go with me?
All right, and welcome to the Kickflix podcast. Kickflix, your favorite podcast where you come to watch and hear people talk about and review their favorite or not favorite martial arts movies of yesteryear and today. I am their science. With me, as usual, is Jeff Roundhouse
Again.
Mercatini.
Oh God, my leg! I pulled something. Nope, can't do it. Hi.
I can't see anything.
I can't see you. I think it's showing.
Are you frozen?
Am I? Oh wait. How about?
No,
still frozen.
Uh-oh. Okay.
We'll come back to your round. That's
Yeah,
the
can you hear me, though?
slowest round. Yeah, we can
hear you.
Slowest roundhouse in the world.
So and Mike Backflip Mercadal.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. Kickflix. We'll do it in post, and I landed. Okay.
There you go. Do a reverse. We'll do a reverse, Today's martial art movies that we are reviewing, as you can tell by looking at your listening device or your screen, if you're on our YouTube or Facebook watching us live, is what year is this? 2009? 2010? 2008.
Feels like forever.
Yeah, 2008 Redbelt. It is a Mamet movie. David Mamet is the director of this movie. David Mamet has directed other pretty famous, pretty well-known movies. But let's get to the IMDb description of the film.
Yeah. First of all, we have to address whose movie was this?
Neary's.
Okay, good to
Yes.
know. Good to know. Okay.
man.
Redbelt.
They're not all going to be Oscar winners.
Ironically enough, there are Oscar winners in this.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people who are Oscar. All right, Redbelt 2008, rated R. A fateful event leads to a job in the film business for top mixed martial arts instructor Mike Terry. Though he refuses to participate in prize bouts, circumstances conspire to force him to consider entering such a competition. I do feel like that's not all of it.
Is it though?
Well, it's supposed to be a summary. It's supposed to be a summary. So yeah,
no, but like it's not even right. Like it's not about him being a mixed martial arts instructor. It's about jujitsu and a very specific, like honorable warrior concept. Like I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Like this feels like a mislead. Directed by David Mamet, written by David Mamet. So that means it's all him. Whatever the results of this movie are 100% David Mamet.
That's not accurate either. There's a lot of studio shit. There's a lot of notes. There's a lot of. I mean,
is there? Why?
I'm not saying there is. I'm not. And by the way, I will go on record now and show my hands. I enjoyed this movie. It is very different and very weird, and I can understand people's. I don't know if I like it and confusion. I get all of that. I understand. I enjoy this movie. But I can understand other people not enjoying the movie. But and I don't know much about the behind the scenes. But the fact that you say that a writer directors the movies, it doesn't. There's a million moving pieces to filmmaking nowadays, and
I mean, yes and no. And
producers, there's producers, there's
script
studios,
direction,
there's script direction, there's cinematography. There's so much that could fuck up a movie.
We'll
and
get
change
to
the direction
that.
of the movie. So
Script direction.
But first, we have to do the parents' guide. The parents' guide.
Parents' Guide to Redbelt.
Yeah.
Redbelt.
Yeah.
There are literally 3 entries because that's what this movie deserves. This is a nothing.
Well, most people haven't heard about this movie.
Really?
Had you heard about it before? Because
this is okay. We'll talk about why. Then I don't think the studio has that much involvement because otherwise they would have. These are big time actors in this movie. So is rated R. Sex and nudity. Be the first to evaluate this category. Violence and gore. Be the first to evaluate this category. Profanity. Enough F-bombs to secure an R rating. Alcohol, drugs, and smoking. Be the first to evaluate this category.
I mean,
frightening and intense scenes. There are some intense discussions and several fight scenes. A gun goes off somewhat suddenly, and there is nothing designed. To, fucking A.
What?
A gun goes off somewhat suddenly, but there is nothing designed to make the audience jump or squirm.
Yeah, except for the guy's body over a desk. But sure, okay, continue. Continue.
I mean, I don't think that's a jump. No, that's it. Hand-to-hand fighting, mostly in a controlled setting of a dojo and the arena. I mean,
tagline:
no graphic violence and very little blood. Some talk about rape. They leave out the whole, content warning for people. Well, content warning for people who don't want to get into a conversation about suicide. We should probably be a little respectful of that because this movie, if you have watched it, there is a lot of suicide talk. There's a big suicide situation,
depression,
rape, depression. Yeah. There's a lot of those things discussed in this movie, or they come up in this movie and then they play a role in the outcome. But other than that, like genuinely, there's nothing on here on IMDb. I was trying to find out when I watched this movie because I just watched it yesterday. I was watching it with my wife, and there was a genuine moment where we were all of us. Where both of us were like, what is this movie?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so I don't want to jump into whatever else we got going on.
Taglines. There's always a way out. You just have to find it. It's the fast forward button.
That's such a bad tagline for a movie that has a suicide in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's true.
That's such a bad tagline for that. I was like, oh, there's always a way out if you know how to cock back the hammer. What the
fuck? Jesus Christ. Budget of $7 million estimated. Gross $2,345,000. Oh no, wait. Yeah, $2,345,941 in the US. 2 million worldwide. So about 5 million worldwide. So yeah, did not do well. 67% from critics, 65% from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah. I don't know. Do you want to do the 60-second?
Yeah. Jeff, 60-second first.
Me. Okay. Yep. So 60-second review. I actually did enjoy this movie up until I didn't. It was what it started out to be. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I kind of see where they're going with this. I like this whole code of the samurai kind of thing that Terry's like lives by. And, you know, I can appreciate that kind of, you know, what they were trying to do with this. You know, they were saying that Mamet took heavy influence on Kurosawa for this movie. I wish he would have taken more influence, but whatever. It gets to a certain point in the movie where it turns from a realistic film to keeping realistic elements, because I can see some of the things that happened in the end actually be something that really would happen, but it seems like they throw in so much shit into and I saw Mike's face. I'll when we get to it, I'll explain to you where I can see the realistic part of it. But it gets to a point where they throw like all these situations at one time that it's like we have to put all these things together so that you can believe why this part has to happen at the end. But it goes from being realistic and the fact that every single one of these things, for this to happen, it has to be like just all the little, you know, all the things fall into place perfectly, and it's hardly unlikely that it would happen. I'll go into details on that later. So I liked it up until I didn't.
Okay,
that's
Mike.
This was not a Kickflix movie. if that makes sense. Like, this was a drama about someone who practices Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, it was a drama. It wasn't there was almost like no fighting in the movie.
Right.
You know, it was all of these concepts and ideas and the struggle between maintaining honor and the fight and the promoting of the fight as a sport versus the, you know, like the art and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggle with it because I did martial arts in a strip mall dojo. You know what I mean? Like, the ideas presented in those like the, oh my god, master, and the respect for the academy and the depth of the fucking suicide in this movie. I'm like, what? That's bullshit. This is a strip mall. You know what I mean? Like, it's a strip mall dojo. It's some guy doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. What? It appeared to me David Mamet started taking Brazilian jiu-jitsu and wrote a movie about it, put his wife in it, put his, you know, people, you know, like, he's a well-known guy. Like, he's a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright. He's got his, and one of the things in this movie is that, like, people barely spoke in complete sentences. There's a lot of the dialogue that was very much like a play rather than like a movie, if that makes sense. And then also it fell apart at the end. Like, it was one of those movies where I was on board literally until the end. And then I was just like, what? All of that for this? Get the fuck out of here. And that's the energy that I have. I'm like, get the fuck. None of it was like, it was entertaining as a drama until it tried to be more than that. And then it was just like a weird, you know, it was like a weird, all right. And then there's a fight scene and now everybody go home. You know, that it was.
Yeah, so I've seen this movie a few times. I like this movie, but I also share bits and thoughts of what you guys are saying. I also echo those. I like the movie, but I do acknowledge that it is a weird movie, and I don't know where it fits into a movie. Like, I'm like, I like it, but I don't know why. And I like a lot of elements of it. I always enjoy, and it's gonna sound ironic or making fun of, but I'm not. I always enjoy watching Tim Allen do actual acting.
Yes.
Like, I
yeah,
enjoy,
that was an interesting thing.
I enjoy watching Tim Allen not play the bumbling, goofy TV dad. Like, I like actually watching him act. So he's also in this movie, for the listeners that don't think I'm fucking randomly pulling Tim Allen out of the fucking hat there.
There's so many people in this movie.
But there's so many people in this movie. I like the movie, but I do acknowledge that it is weird. I do acknowledge the twists and turns. You go, what the fuck? I'm with you in the fact that it's an actual deep drama, and I enjoy it for that reason. I will echo your sentiments that I don't. This is barely it is very much a deep drama that has martial arts as the backdrop.
Right.
I do acknowledge that. So, but I do like this movie. But if anybody, I won't die on the hill for this movie.
Okay.
If somebody goes, this movie sucked. I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, sir.
Right.
I don't agree with you, but damn it, I agree with your fucking right to feel that way, because I get.
Mike is spot on in something he said during his 60-second review. David Mamet had been practicing jiu-jitsu for 6 years prior to doing this movie.
Yeah. It's when you're rich, you can
took 5 years to make this movie.
Year one. But it's I could see, okay, this is what happens when people get too into these strip mall fucking, like, I can't wait for the foot fist way to come up on here, because then it'll kind of
I disagree with you in the sense of, like, I've heard your theology about the whole quote unquote strip mall martial arts thing, and the whole I don't agree with your stance on that, but this to me was not, the guy didn't kill himself over a strip mall martial art artist.
No, you're right.
The guy, Mike Terry, helped this man's life out in a dramatic way, more so than just a quote unquote strip mall sensei.
And how? In what way?
Well, he had talked about that he was gonna get kicked off the force at one point, and Mike is the one that helped him out. Like, it was vague, but it was implied that Mike Terry on a personal level,
Sure.
because through his
They were
teaching.
friends.
He tried to get him the job. He got him the job at his brother-in-law's bar, but then he found out he wasn't getting paid. You know, he gave him the watch.
An alcohol thing, maybe, that he doesn't
There
drink
was an
anymore.
alcohol, there was an abuse. Like, there was, again, all these things were implied, not necessarily said, but what I understood from it was that Mike Terry helped this man through a rough time on a personal level, and then now Mike feels bad that he's not getting paid, so he's trying to set, you know what I mean, all these events set in motion type of deal. So that logic, that brushing it off, I was like, oh, this is a strip mall sorry, he's a strip mall sensei, he's not gonna die over this guy. I was like, no, that's like painting with a super broad brush. And I think for this specific movie, I don't, it's not like he killed himself over a strip mall.
No, I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating to make a point in the sense of like this. So I'm not insulting Brazilian jiu-jitsu in any way. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the concept of this like pure practitioner can't really exist anymore. Like that was never a real thing anyway.
I agree with you in that. I totally agree with you in that. And that was portrayed in this movie because he financially was not doing well. Because you have to pick and choose. You can't be a purist of something and be successful in business at the same time while being a purist in that art form. It doesn't exist. No matter what art form it is, in comedy, in stand-up, you can't be a purist in stand-up and also be financially, commercially successful. There's that whole thing about when you make it to a certain point, people start calling you a sellout and shit like that. It's like, you can't, there's got to be, the ideal situation is to have a balance, or the ideal situation is I'm a purist and I make millions of dollars being a purist. But it doesn't work out that way. But that's what they showed in this movie. So you're right, Mike. I agree with you. There is the being a purist in this. You can't be a purist practitioner. You're right.
Mary said I was right. Podcast over.
And now here's the thing. Here's the one thing I will say, and I'm gonna throw this out to you guys now. And this is just how bad the writing was for this, because I had to kind of assume
which is a bold statement to say for a David Mamet thing.
Correct.
It's also a bold statement to make on a Kickflix podcast.
Well, so but the thing is that
we're still up our own asses right now.
Yeah, to single out the writing for being bad.
This isn't Revenge of the Ninja. I'm expecting it to be a good. But well, because this isn't Revenge of the Ninja, I know what I'm getting into with Revenge of the Ninja.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
So it's like, so here's the thing. I have a feeling.
Last episode when we talked about Revenge of the Ninja, nowhere did we say this was bad writing.
Yeah,
no, at all.
We were like,
at all.
Yep.
It was expected writing. It was expected writing.
I did say heroin was involved in writing. The script,
so. So here's the thing. What I actually would argue is that the cop did something for Terry. Because they don't ever really tell you why Terry doesn't drink anymore,
right?
And even at that scene where he gets stood up in the at the restaurant, he pushes away the glass of wine that this guy purposefully left there, a full glass of wine in front of him, because they've already done the research on what this guy is. Because this massive conspiracy that's tied in with the Italian mob in Los Angeles. Let's call back to Revenge of the Ninja, but I almost have a feeling that Terry feels like he owes the officer something because he may have helped him out when he was going through the shit with potential alcoholism or something like that. They imply that he doesn't drink anymore. They show that scene. They don't really go deeper into it. So this is me pulling assumptions out of my ass based on a couple little scenes I saw in it, but they don't really dive into that. Why does he have such a commitment to this guy? I never got that it was because of the art. There was something specifically with this guy.
I got to know it's a part of the art, and then the whole thing that he knows his wife, and then that he feels
there's much more.
There's a lot. There's nuances. There's a lot of nuances. I agree with you. There's no spoon feeding in this film. The writing is. There's no way that it's like this is why this is happening. This is why that is happening. It's kind of like left. You're right. There's a lot. You're right. I agree with you.
There's an element. Yeah. So let's talk about the actual like plot of the movie, because it genuinely.
Oh, you know it?
Huh?
You know it?
No, just like in order of events happening.
You dug this up?
One of the things, like, first of all, it starts off with him training the hands restrain that little. The second they showed that pulling the little balls out of the thing, and one of them.
Jeff said the same thing.
The second I saw that, I was like, "Oh no,
Yeah,
this is gonna be a
we're gonna see it.
thing."
and when they showed the guy,
Foreshadowing.
when they showed Chris Angel at the bar, like switching the black dice for the white
of all,
dice.
Why David Mamet is obsessed with magicians?
Yeah,
because Ricky Jay is also the guy who plays the promoter, the promoter who steals the idea later on. He is one of these guys that trains magicians. Like he's been in a bunch of David Mamet movies, but also he's like a debunker or whatever you want to call it. I was trying to
like a
figure out.
magic debunker.
Yeah,
like that he shows you how to
Google him.
Like that he shows you how the tricks, like to prove how illusions and tricks work.
Something like that. He's written books and stuff like that. But he's worked with David Mamet a bunch. And God, I want to keep talking. I want to find.
Okay,
but what I'm saying is that there was so much of this movie that once I saw.
Keep talking, but I want to.
Never mind. Shut up. Never mind. I don't know what I'm saying.
Never mind. Shut up. You can.
Yeah.
The one going back to what I said, because I got distracted by the magicians, because there was a lot of the setup, which I kind of was like okay with, but as it took itself so seriously, this movie, I was like, okay, so the guy is a cop, whatever. He leaves his gun lying around. Like there was just like too much of a confluence of stuff. Like everything just happened to coincide with everything else.
Well, that's what
like,
Jeff was saying. There's so many things that have to happen in order for this.
It's like here's this because of this, and then mind you, really quick, Mike. I don't want you to cut you off, but the gun thing later on when the lawyer comes back, there's a gun sitting on the fucking counter.
No, that's a prop gun for training.
Was it?
Okay, it's a dummy gun for when
because I saw I was like, wait, the gun's still there.
Yeah,
we've left it there in memory.
And he's using it as a paperweight for the applications.
Also, like the fact that the safety's off and all that stuff. I was like, this guy's a bad cop. Like this guy is irresponsible with his weapon.
That's why he's working as a bartender or like a bouncer. Also,
that was another thing. Working as a bouncer, like additional security for someplace, they have off-duty cops that are in uniform for that shit. Like they could have, like he could have petitioned the company could have just, I mean, again, there's a lot of shady shit happening with this guy's wife's brother. Is that
it was his brother-in-law.
Also, Alice Braga, she's great. She was awesome. I love her, and she was in.
I think this might be the best acted.
100%
that we have done.
100%.
The acting is so good in this movie.
This is the opposite of our usual Kickflix movie where you get amazing action and the acting is atrocious. It's like, wow, this acting is.
And I love
Chidowell
Ejiofor is awesome.
Yeah. How's the action? The acting is great. Yeah, but the kicking and how's the action? Man, this acting is superb.
Yeah, the acting is great.
The whole premise, and Emily Mortimer too, the lawyer lady, the one that goes in and actually shoots the gun, the junkie, she's after pills or something,
which they never touch again.
They never talk again. they never address it again.
Yeah, no, they kind of did, where they talk about like her
real situation. Yeah,
her like getting over it. Her like, you got to get your shit together. They do have that.
But when you're an addict at the level that she was at the beginning of that movie, it's not just about, okay, this jujitsu instructor told me I should stop, so I'm gonna stop.
No, but what she's doing is what I took again. These are all nuances, so you're not wrong. Right. I'm not saying that you're wrong, and this is what I understood from it when I watched it, is that she had that talk from Mike, and then from Mike Terry on the show.
I know. I do. It was odd to hear people like shitting on Mike. Get your shit together. I was like, I am watching a movie. I'm trying. I don't know. This is homework for a podcast.
Things I would never have to worry about. So nobody's gonna be like, Neri, the TV character, get your shit. So, but what I took from it was that she had that conversation with him, and she, on top of that, she's also the little bit that I know about addiction is that a lot of addicts substitute one addiction for another, right? Which is a lot of times what happens when you have an addict become this super religious person. They're just substituting addictions. The same thing happens with the gym. When you see a lot of these like former alcoholics or former drug addicts, they go into like and they become these devout gym rats where all they do is work out, is because they're substituting an addiction for another addiction. And that's what I took. Again, nuances. This is not said. I get you. You're not wrong, Jeff. I agree with you. what I took from it is that she is substituting addictions, and she is now diving headfirst into the jiu-jitsu aspect of, and she's going through for all of it. She's
Yeah.
going for not just the physical, but the mental and the
Right.
spiritual. She's like buying it hook, line, and sinker to be like, it's kind of like that logic where you hear coaches on football teams being like, they bought into the system. Like she's
Right.
buying into this to help her with the addiction of pills. that
No,
she was-
and I
Again, that's
100%.
nuanced.
No,
Nuanced, not
And
set.
I 100%, I'm with you. I mean, the problem is I looked at it from that realistic perspective. My dad worked for Metro-Dade County for 30 years doing drug rehabilitation
Right.
and counseling for
Right.
people. And like, I'd go visit him at work and he was like, yeah, no, look at it. Like it's when you're that deep where she's in the rain calling people, like she's deep in that
She was in
addiction.
crisis is what it's called.
Yeah.
So like in a moment where she could not fulfill her regular prescription, she even says like a straight pharmacy won't accept this prescription.
Right.
Blah blah blah. Like that is a thing that when people get addicted to prescription drugs, there is a medical gatekeeping with the DEA that you're not allowed to give, just an infinite amount of painkillers. Well, if they follow through.
Mike has told me stories of when he was working in the emergency room 1,000 years ago, when he would see people come in like, oh, I have a headache, I want pain, like, and just give whatever fucking
they
reason.
come in for abdominal pain, and they were and look, they were genuine. Like it's we can't just assume they're not in pain, but
Right.
after a while, like you look at their previous visits, and it's like a million things. It must be a nightmare to be that person. I always had sympathy, like I always felt so bad, but it's also like we can't enable it either. So it's like a really shitty situation. It's not again, it's not a.
I'm with you on I'm with you, Jeff, on the fact that it wasn't like you're right. Like addiction is harder to deal with than what she's like.
Right.
And I don't need stuff spoon fed. Yeah, I don't need.
She didn't just wake up and go, oh, well, I guess I'm not addicted to pills anymore. I'm fine with that.
But it seemed like that the way she was acting.
Yeah, you're right.
To me, the way she was acting, it seemed like, oh, forget it. That's just my what's the word I'm looking for like a story, like just to like steamroll it into why she ends up going into the dojo.
Canon.
Yeah, like why is she going into the dojo? Because she's addicted to pills. Let's go with that. And she can't find a pharmacy.
His car is what.
But while looking for the pills.
Well, she was looking for the pharmacy, and then she hits the car. It was across the street from the dojo. I had to rewind it a couple of times to figure out like what is happening, and it's very that's what I was saying about this whole movie being very
plot
conveniently.
That's what
convenient. Like everything is just convenient to the story and the point of the message of what he was trying to tell. Because she does go in there, and also he's really weird when she comes in, where he's like he doesn't let her talk. Take your jacket off, do this stuff, come on in, we're fine, whatever. And she's like, I'm a fucking junkie, like and then they show the part where the cop guy, Officer Joe, puts his hands on her shoulders to take the coat, and that's when she flinches. It's not explained until later, which is way later, why she does that, or she like doesn't like to be touched because of the fact that she was raped, and she just comes out and says it to him in that scene, which there's a lot of there's some people earning their fucking paycheck as actors in this movie, and with that scene where he's like he grabs her behind with a knife, and then he's like there's always a way out, and then he's like at the end of it when she like breaks down, he's like she sees that there's another guy, the Snowflake was there, and he's like there was a line, he's like there are only fighters here. I was like, fuck yeah, that's a great line. Like what a good like there was some legit well written and well acted stuff in a thing that didn't really hold together for me.
You know what, Mike? I will say that gives me a little bit more clarity, because the addiction was more so for her to control the pain of being raped. So when he broke through that wall with her, she realized that she wasn't helpless. And she wasn't useless. So I guess that can be explained there. So I'll give credit where credit is due there.
I'd like to give a disclaimer as to why this movie was on the list to begin with. Okay, one, I again reiterating, I do enjoy this movie. I've seen this movie in the past. I saw it recently, like 6 months ago, before doing the podcast. I enjoy this movie, but in making the list, I like literally Googled martial arts movies, and then Redbelt came out. I'm like, oh yeah, Redbelt is a martial art movie, and I just put it in there. I don't know if I would necessarily going back if I had to do it again, if I would have added Redbelt in a movie, because it is so much drama, and so like the balance between drama and
Can we talk about
martial arts is not
Yeah.
there's an imbalance there. And for this podcast specifically, especially being that it's a comedy podcast, I want to reiterate the fact that we're supposed to be doing a comedy podcast, because I know a lot of times we do, like, there are a lot of movie review podcasts out there that do straight film review, and they like take it from a film review's perspective, like a film student's perspective. I'm not that dude. I'm a comedian. And so I like to do a comedy podcast. And this is like, so when they talked about the rape, and it's like, oh, shit, I can't fucking do anything comedically about this. So I will like to, again.
But that doesn't mean we can't enjoy. Like, first of all,
I enjoy this movie. That's why I said I enjoy this movie for the dramaticness of it. But I do acknowledge that the comedy is very few and far between that I can make fun of, and the action is all the way up.
I felt like Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park when he was like, "Are you gonna have dinosaurs on your dinosaur?" I was like, "Are you gonna have jujitsu in your jujitsu movie?"
There was like, and my wife was telling me that she was like, she's like, this was so slow and the choreography. I'm like, Brazilian jiu-jitsu does not lend itself well to movie choreography. It's not for the movies. So when they're trying to,
there's a movie called Warrior that will disagree with you on that one.
But
that's MMA though.
That is a different. There's a lot more striking in Warrior, and it's in the ring, and it's also not 100% realistic in its execution. I mean,
it's not like Never Back Down.
Anytime you have, just to the listener, anytime you have any movie that has a contest that is winner take all, immediately is bullshit.
It's bullshit. Yeah.
Immediately, because there is no contest on earth that anybody would enter where you have a 90% chance of losing and gaining nothing.
Tell that to Frank Dux.
The whole point of winner take all means that there's no second or third place, and second or third place get zero money financially or zero reward.
Yeah,
there's no such, like, nobody would actually enter a contest like that. So it just makes me laugh when they go,
unless wait.
No, second place takes $10,000. Shut the fuck up.
Listen, unless the police are investigating you for a shotgun that was shot in your studio, you were black. You were tricked by an actor and your wife and her brother and your friend got coming.
Your wife
that did get me. I was like, "What? That too?
Yeah,
no, that's so many things."
Just to add it into there, let's throw in that the wife was tricking on him.
But what a good line!
David Mamet hates Brazilians. He's like, "Fuck these Brazilians."
Yeah, how good of a line was that though? How good of a line was that though when she said, "You can't expect to marry a princess." And like live like a pauper or whatever the fuck the line was. But I was like,
yeah.
It's so good because it's established that her family comes from money and now she doesn't have it. Oh, it's so good.
She has a fucking factory in Brazil. That whole thing about her money being used to pay for his business.
Yeah.
Like, she's a businesswoman too. Like I enjoyed all that stuff. And again, Alice Braga, she's great. I totally dug her. Also, there was something about a Latina woman with an accent yelling at some guy named Mike. I was like, oh, that feels
Lisa Mike.
Nice.
I was like,
that feels good.
But that's the thing. Up to the point.
Mike,
I'll tell you the turning point where the turning point for me where the movie started going to shit was when the Rolex ended up being fake, or the watch ended up being fake, and then you started seeing stolen. Sorry.
Well, okay. Let's go back, because we do get the point where he goes, and that's when he meets Tim Allen. When they introduce Tim Allen at the bar, he's going to see why Officer Joe quit that job.
Yeah.
And then, there's a part of it where I was like, why is the wife? Where is she going? What is this about taking her camping? Like, what is this going on? And then, the Joe had quit the job, so he's there figuring it out. And can we talk about how Nick from New Girl?
I texted Neri. I go, "Oh my god, it's Nick from New Girl."
Yeah.
But okay, let me ask you this: Did they ever explain? Did I miss it? Because a lot of people made references saying, "I can't believe he's out without his security." Did they ever mention
he's
what
supposed
he did?
to be a tough guy actor? Like, he's supposed to be like an action hero actor, and that's one of the things where they were like. And later on in the movie where he's like, I just wanted to get a drink. And then he's like, I just wanted to get into a fight.
Yeah, he wanted to get beat up.
Yeah, and he wanted to get. It's like, no. Why do you want to go in there? He's like, no, you wanted to get beat up. And then he admits to that. So
what I understood from it was that there was a previous incident where he had gone out in public and something bad happened at a bar, or because of alcohol, and so therefore he was what I understood, again, nuance, you're absolutely right. They didn't talk about this, but what I understood was there was a previous situation where this actor went out in public and got into a fist fight with somebody or multiple people, and from then on, he was not to leave without his security. And so, why are you leaving without your security?
I almost thought it was something having to do with a girl, because when Nick starts talking crap to him, he like mentions like, "Oh yeah, you just go out and you don't know when who somebody's girl is," or something along those lines. Like he
bought the girl a drink. It was genuinely like bullshit. Like the fact that he was mad about that was like, hey, he's like, I admire your taste or whatever.
I got to be honest with you. That being from Miami, that's such a Miami thing. I could totally believe fucking insert The Rock buying some girl a fucking drink at the bar, and the fucking girl's boyfriend being like, "Oh, you fucking think you're gonna fucking hit on my girl, huh, Dwayne?" And it's like, what? Like I could see that.
No, I couldn't see that. I can see that with Tim Allen.
Maybe not for the
I will say I did enjoy
maybe not for The Rock. The Rock is too charismatic. The Rock is too charismatic. But somebody else,
1980s Arnold Schwarzenegger buys your wife a drink.
Joe Rogan. All right, so Joe Rogan goes to a bar and then buys a girl a drink. I could totally see the Miami douchebag being like, "You think you're fucking better than me?"
Yeah.
I did enjoy seeing Tim Allen getting punched in the face, though. I did like seeing him getting beat up.
There's another movie that
I'm just sad that he didn't make the sound. When he got
nah, man, he's just like a weird fucking conservative.
There's another
now.
movie where Tim Allen's in that's a dramedy. It's drama. It's kind of comedy dramedy. I think it's called Sucker Punch or something Punch, and it's
Galaxy Quest.
No, and he does a good job of acting. Like it's about that, about him being a punk and being pushed around, and then he does this whole thing where, it's a good movie, but he does a good job acting like, "Hey man, I don't want to be a fucking loser anymore." And
right.
It's really good. Anyway, so that's why I said I enjoy watching Tim Allen.
Oh, the Santa Claus. No.
Santa Claus 3, where I wanted to punch him in the face.
There's a quote from David Mamet that he's like, there are like 4 perfect movies ever made. And the first one, and on that list of the 4 movies is Galaxy Quest. So he must be a fan of Tim.
Are you serious?
Not even joking.
I mean, that movie's fantastic. I love that movie. So much.
Nobody on this panel is going to disagree.
There's a documentary that I watched recently again for like the second time, like called Never Surrender. I think it's on Hulu or Amazon. I can't remember, but it's a Galaxy Quest documentary, and it opens with a David Mamet quote: "The Godfather, A Place in the Sun, Dodsworth, and Galaxy Quest. These are perfect films."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
if you're wondering, to the listener, if you're wondering how good Redbelt is, we are not talking about Galaxy
other
Quest
movies.
Documentaries. No, we're talking about documentaries about other movies.
Yeah.
Not even other movies. So now we're talking about documentaries about the other movies. Like it's that's how it's going.
So at the point in the middle,
how it's going.
Yeah.
In the middle of the movie, that at that point when they start, he saves Tim Allen, then he like starts inviting him to the set and invites him over for dinner.
Super weird,
super weird thing. Then he runs into like his friend from like, I guess, the military. That's the stunt coordinator.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I want to go back to the part where they're like reviewing. This is literally one of the only fight scenes in the entire movie. It's him defending Tim Allen from the fucking attackers, right? Because all of a sudden, it's not just a bar fight. Like all of a sudden, they like clear out, and these other dudes start attacking, and it's like, what is happening? And then when they're watching the tape back, they're showing him with a stick, whatever. And I admit that this is it was a dumb. I didn't like it. I didn't like that fight scene, especially in the context of this movie. But there is a line when they're talking, when the cops show up, where he's like, they talk about who he's like, where Mike says, "I never threw a punch. I'm a stone cold victim."
Yeah.
I was like, that's in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu movie is fucking a dope line. Because he literally just let them come to him and he did his thing. And he's like, I'm a stone cold victim while they're all fucked up in the hospital and shit is a dope line. It's great. I genuinely love that concept of him being the pacifist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it sucks that this movie takes a turn once they bring in this whole Hollywood aspect where I'm like, well, which sellout is he? Like, there's too many opportunities for him to be a sellout.
But I think that's what the whole point is, that they're saying like he's being tempted in so many angles and so many parts of his life to sell out. And if he would just sell out, all his problems would go away.
But I don't
Because
think
all
he's
his
selling
prom-
out for the movie, because the
but
movie
all-
he's saying they're bringing me onto the movie. They
Right.
want me to make this realistic, and they want
Right.
me to
He's
show this
on
how it's
board.
supposed
He's
to be.
sold
Right.
out.
No, that's not selling out though. He's
I don't think
just
that's selling out.
that's not selling out. What he's not that's not what he's doing. He's
Mm.
consulting on how to how
Okay,
a
but he's
fight
not
would
selling out.
naturally go. That's actually not selling, at least not to
Fine,
me.
fine.
Maybe to some degree.
Yeah,
to
because
some
he
other people.
wants them to do it right.
Correct.
So he's like, let me teach you so you don't make this look like garbage.
Right.
Right.
And so I think that, and then he has to, the watch is stolen or reported stolen. That's clearly a move, I thought, by the actor's agent to have this guy by the ball so that he
100%.
won't sue him later for the fucking for the stolen intellectual property thing, for the fight thing.
It was wild that from the movie meeting, that dinner that they have,
Right.
that the wife was like, "Hey, look, I pulled these rocks out of this person's plant and I throw them. Tell them about the thing." I was
Yeah.
like, that was an unbelievable moment where I was like, "Eh."
But now you know later that she set him up,
Yeah.
because remember she ended up
She
working
was
with them.
trying to get, and that's the
Yes.
sellout. That's the sellout opportunity aspect.
Hmm.
It wasn't the movie thing. It was the don't piss these people off, because if you piss these people off, then my opportunity as your wife, that's
Right.
gonna get taken away from me.
And he pissed it off like accidentally because he was trying to like do this because he gave him a job at his brother-in-law's place that was stiffing the cop. Like, what a weird, why not pay? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
But then he gives him the watch to like make up for that. Like, hey man,
Right.
I'm sorry or whatever. And then it's a stolen watch, and then the guy gets fucked.
I don't think it's a stolen watch. I think they said it was a stolen watch because
That's-
once
yeah.
once
We were
they
having that
once they
discussion as well.
stole the idea for the thing, the dice and the fucking
Yeah,
the
but
marble, whatever,
the marbles.
they were
But
gonna
that's-
use
The
that.
wife sold him out on the on the gun part, not the marble part.
Well, no, but what we're saying is, because you had
What we're
mentioned about
saying
how
is
it,
that
the
they were
hold on,
the
Neri, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
That the marble part, like you had mentioned about the marble part in the dinner. What I'm saying is that we don't know how far back she was involved in this, because her brother already knew she was complaining about the money thing. He was already involved in this fight with their other brother, because the other brother's the main event. So she was there, and she's like, hey, show him this, so that they would be explained, hey, look, we can do this for the
You're
fight.
saying that it goes
That far back.
I disagree. Not only did I not get that, I disagree. I don't think it's that. I think
Right. But to the listener, if it doesn't sound like we're making sense, if you watch this movie, we're making as about a good sense as you
As they
can.
do.
the
make it.
movie.
Yeah,
I said, I'm
there's
just
so
throwing that
many
out.
moving parts. There are so many moving parts, because I'm hearing what Jeff is saying, and I'm like, man, if I hadn't seen this movie, I wouldn't know what the fuck he was saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. He's not wrong. Jeff is not wrong in the sense of like trying to explain what's happening. But if I'm a listener
You
that
have no
hadn't
idea
seen
what
the
I'm
movie,
thinking.
I wouldn't. So to the listener, I want to just make sure you are aware that what Jeff is saying makes sense if you watch the movie. And by that, I mean it makes as much sense as possible, because this
Correct.
movie is so convoluted.
no
There are
sense.
so many steps.
Yeah.
There are so many things that have to happen in order for the story to go the way it went. It's
And
like
that's the thing. It's
the
just
perfect
it's
storm
frustrating.
of
Yeah.
the perfect shitstorm.
They didn't know that the Rolex was he was gonna give him the watch, the cop guy the watch. He gives the cop guy the watch, who happens to then open up a new hole, for them, like that. Then, because notice the guy didn't leave the dinner until he mentioned the watch, and he's like, "Oh, I gave it to somebody, and they said it was stolen." And that's when he was like, "Oh shit, I gotta go, because now we have another out against this guy where we can."
I genuinely don't think that's structured. I think in my mind that Joe Mantegna, again, there's so many people in this fucking movie.
So good.
Yeah. And Joe Mantegna is this kind of like skeevy guy, and basically keeping Tim Allen, I don't even remember their fucking characters' names.
Yeah.
Chet.
Tim Allen, Chet, yeah. From
I haven't seen this movie in 8 months, and I still remember that guy's name.
Yeah.
Mind you, I saw Revenge of the Ninja yesterday. I don't remember that bad guy's name.
I don't remember anybody's name.
Tico. No,
they're all too famous for me to have also suspended disbelief. Like that's Joe Mantegna. He's the dad from Searching for Bobby Fischer.
That's Criminal Minds right there, bro.
That's the movie I go to for him. But the idea is, I think that there was a reactionary thing.
Right? He was in Thinner?
Was he in Thinner?
Yeah, he was the mafia guy in Thinner. The guy that hey, I got your back. and then he started taking out.
He's great. Whatever. That's what I'm saying. This movie had so many people in it because I know we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah,
but
we're talking about other fucking movies. That's how much we're fucking. That's how weird this movie is for Kickflix that we'd rather talk about Thinner. Remember Thinner when he was taking out Thinner?
So I genuinely feel like the introduction of all of these elements was not to show that it had been pre-orchestrated. Like it was to show that things kept falling apart for him because he wasn't biting. He wasn't selling out. He was trying to do the right thing too constantly in a world where people don't do the right thing. Hollywood being the perfect example of like exploitation. So like this guy, suddenly he's like, I gave the gift. Because even then he's like, they were like, hey, you give a fucking watch that given you by Chet, you give it away. My thing is that was probably like an insurance thing or something. They declared stolen. He's going to get the money on the back end anyway. They'll never see that watch again. Because he would keep it as a treasured memento. The fact that once he mentions that, he never comes back to the table.
Yeah,
he sits there forever. Then his wife is literally trying to call the people and like, oh, they're on vacation, the number's disconnected, all this shit. They're like avoiding him. And then I think she was desperate for her own money. She didn't trust him because he's too good.
Right.
So that's when she chooses to sell him out and tell him about the story about why, like, she probably didn't even do it on purpose. She was probably like, I need to get in with these people that paid for $30,000 of my shit. You know, like, and then she was like, what do I have to tell you? Oh, yeah, the gun went off and they gave it to the cop and then whatever. And then the guy kills himself. Right. And there's this whole other layer of how many bad things can happen to one person in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. And I think but what I never said, like, just to be clear, like the whole watch going to the cop thing, that was not planned on their part. That just was a new thing that added into it, which was like, oh, now we've got this also that we can use as blackmail against him to, you know, if he tries to come after us for this or whatever.
But this is where I thought the movie was going. And then it turned into the fight promotion thing,
right?
Where I was like, I thought it was about Hollywood being shitty, which David Mamet making a top tier acted independent film about Hollywood corruption with a basis of BJJ would have been great. Yeah. But then he pivoted and it changed to the tournament. And I'm like, this tournament is also not a realistic tournament and a fight promotion, whatever it is. But I was like, man, this has got there's too much happening. You try to jam too much into one movie.
And that's what I was mentioning at the beginning of my 60-second review, that towards in that last part, like you could, when I said was the only kind of realistic thing is, you know, for a fact that there's fights that are fixed all the time and there's these rigged sporting events and all that. That's the most realistic part of that last bit of the movie.
Jeff was talking to me a couple of days ago and was like, come on, bro. They're not even gonna. That wouldn't be sanctioned to have your arm tied behind your back. That wouldn't even be sanctioned. And he's literally Googling in a movie that's made about Hollywood, in a movie about Hollywood, talking about, like, he's literally Googling if this would be sanctioned. This is my favorite part. A day later, after Jeff and I have that conversation, Ronda Rousey in WWE has a fucking match where she literally has an arm tied behind her back and wrestles with her arm tied behind her back. And I'm like,
that's WWE, but yeah.
That's what I'm telling you. This whole shit, the fucking movie, Redbelt, the fight, the tournament, quote unquote tournament at the end, is a fixed, rigged tournament for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
That they're pawning off as quote unquote real fighting, but it's fucking rigged. So the fact that Jeff was like, this wouldn't be sanctioned. Of course it would. It's fucking entertainment.
Well, no, but
to sanction it as entertainment. That's what.
But he's leaving out the key part. But he's leaving out the key part where I mentioned, because the guy, before every fighter went out, you heard it 5 times, the speech of, this is blah 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 sanctioned by the IPA, blah blah blah, whatever. Yeah. We take the results are this.
That's just to fucking tell the people who, because they know who they're gonna rig it against. So they're only saying that to the people who are not part of the rig. You get
Right.
me?
No, they said that to the other two fighters.
They say that to everybody, but
they're saying that to everybody, but they're
they know
saying
who's
it
gonna
to cover
get
their
the
asses
handicap.
legally.
Right, no, right.
To the people who are not covered. Like, and I did the irony of life where you're like, this will never be sanctioned, and then the next day Ronda Rousey's like, tie my hand behind my back and let's fucking have a match. And I'm like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, but that's the undercard also. Like that is not the main event. The main event,
Right.
literally, the guy, her brother, straight up says, "Yeah, the money's in the rematch. I'm gonna throw. You know, you're fucking with my business now, et cetera, et cetera." And I was like, go back to the movie thing, or this should have been the story from the beginning. Like, why is there was they planted all of these? Like, why
I think this was a movie from the beginning. I think the whole thing was I need to get this guy to fight, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get this guy to in this fucking tournament. Right? That's what the whole thing. Because in the beginning they were like, "Oh, you fight."
Obviously not. Once you see the last shot of the movie, obviously none of this makes sense. So absolutely none of anything that we're saying makes any sense. But let's because we got 10 minutes left.
We have 5 minutes left. So Jeff literally talked about the fact that he was like, they already fucked up the whole thing with the red belt because there's a million red belts. Like Jeff,
I looked it up, and there's not just one red belt. It's technically a 9th degree black belt, and it's the highest possible rank that a living practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu can obtain. The earliest a 19-year-old
have it.
Anybody can have it.
Not can. How many people have obtained that level?
I didn't see that information. But they said that the earliest
I read up on it, and it was like I read up on it like months ago when I saw this movie 1,000, and they said that there were like 4 Gracies that had it. Like
there's 5. So there's 5 people that have the 10th degree level, and nobody else is ever allowed to get it. And it's the 5 people that pioneered Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Correct. Yeah.
Everybody else is the 9th degree. If you start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you get a black belt at 19 years old, which is almost impossible. You will not get a red belt until you're 67 years old.
Yeah.
But it's not just one. But it's not just one red belt. There's anybody can get a red belt.
Well, you say anybody, but you say anybody, but it's like it's
anybody who's a hardcore practitioner.
He gets it handed to him in the fucking hallway after fighting, like not
in the ring.
In the ring. It's on the ring. It's a center stage.
They hug in the ring because he waits for the microphone to drop. Yeah. He calls for the microphone so he can do the big reveal, admitting that everybody's that the fix is in, and the guy shows his master's there. He gives him the red belt. He goes, "Oh fuck those people, whatever. They can get their fucking rigged fight. I got a red belt now. I don't care." And then the movie ends.
I was actually I love that ending where he was like, where he got the thing that his honor above money paid off for him finally. I mean, he's still gonna lose his dojo and he's still fucked and he's
right, like and his wife and
but if we've learned anything about Mike Terry throughout this film is that he doesn't care about any of that. He puts fucking his honor and his craft above all of that, and he would rather be a fucking homeless man under a bridge with a red belt than be a fucking rich martial arts instructor in Hollywood
who can pay for the bills for the police officer's wife.
Yeah,
that died because of his.
I hated that lady. That lady was so annoying, and so, like I felt so like I was supposed to care about that lady, but I was just like, this fuck you, man. This lady's annoying.
Which lady's annoying?
The wife of the cop.
Like,
oh right,
there was nothing redeeming.
Also, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because he's gonna hook up with a lawyer, so she's gonna take care of him. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine, guys.
And really quick, the big fight against the brother. They cut away so many times. There was more shots of the audience than of the fight.
There was too many people in this movie. They cut away like 15 different people who were like, "Oh, what is happening? What cut? I
just want one of the main characters to be like getting popcorn the whole time and miss the whole fucking thing. Like, just
it seems like
this movie ended by somebody saying, "Wrap it up. We need this space for Comic-Con." You know what I mean? Like, hey, cut. Yeah, we're done. You know,
I'll fix it in post. That's how it ended. I'll fix it in post.
We've got a Simpsons panel coming in here in like 10 minutes. So I need you guys out of here.
He just fucking quits. That was the thing that made me mad. They build all this shit up and then he just fucking quits. And I was like, you know, I get it makes sense in the honorable.
He quit though. He just
he literally walks out, and then the fucking what does the lawyer say to him outside when she slaps him? Remember? And then he comes back in and is like, now I'm mad or whatever. I don't know.
That hallway fight scene, him walking to the ring, was the best fight in the entire movie. Him fighting off the guys, I was like, okay, this is what I needed the entire movie.
Yeah.
Shit like this.
Whatever.
This is how it. That scene was how it earned the martial arts in the martial arts movie podcast.
Yeah.
review.
Yeah.
That's how that
100%.
sliver of
That's
martial arts.
literally like by the slimmest of margins.
Yeah.
It's either this or Blind Fury. All right. Let's go. Review time. What's your review? What's your final review? What's Jeff? What do you rate this movie out of 5?
I as a drama, the first half of the movie I'd give it a 3, the second half a 1, so I'm gonna give it a 2. I'm gonna give it a 2. There's not really even anything funny that I could think of for this. 2 fake movie prop knives used by ex-soldiers.
Okay.
There's nothing funny I can think of.
Mike?
I give it 3 out of 5 fucking magicians. Those fucking magicians. David Mamet must hate. So Ricky J, I found out what it was. He was famous. He wrote a book about like weird sideshow things, and also he could throw a playing card incredibly strong. That was his big magic trick.
Right.
And he had skills with card tricks and all that stuff.
Okay.
Fucking magicians.
So 3 out of 5 fucking magicians.
Because it's incredibly well acted, but it's just a whatever movie.
I will give it a 4 out of 5 stolen Rolexes. I think the movie, the acting carries it more so than anything else. But the amount of suspension of disbelief you have to follow, it's a lot. But I agree. I'm not dying on this hill for anybody. For this movie, I'm not dying on the hill for this movie. But I did enjoy it. But don't come at me and be like, you fucking recommended this movie.
If you're at the end of this podcast and you still want to go see Redbelt and then you're mad about it, then fuck you. That's your.
All right. As we do with every episode, we go to the wheel of movies and find out which movie we're going to watch next and review next. There is currently 50 movies on the list. If you want to add a movie to the list, email us at kickflixpod@gmail.com. That's kickflixpod@gmail.com. And let's go give it a roundabout. Give it a spin.
Come on, Shanghai Noon.
Come on.
Come on, Galaxy Quest.
Oh, nice.
Best of the best.
From one movie about a tournament to another, we're now going to watch best of the best. So that's the next one.
Oh my God. That's
awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for checking us out. Make sure you guys keep checking us out. Check out the other podcasts on the Geek Bro Network that include, but are not limited to, Pero Let Me Tell You, Child Like a Best with Mike Valdez, the Mount Geekmore podcast, Cramacopia with Jeff and Q, What's Up Bro, Shiver, a horror movie podcast. Make sure you guys check that out, geekbro.net. We have a lot of great content for you. Check out all those podcasts, and email us on what you guys think about Redbelt or any of the movies that we reviewed. Did we get it wrong? Do you disagree? Do you agree? Let us know. Kickflix on all social media platforms, Kickflix Pod. That's Kickflix. It's like Netflix, but with a kick. And thank you guys for checking us out. And that's how red belts are got, I guess. I don't know. That's how red belts are done.